Hello and welcome to MRCPsych on the Go Revision Essentials. My name is Dr. Alapa Surlicker and I'm a psychiatry trainee in the west of Scotland. Like many of you, I spent a lot of time commuting. This was valuable time that I could have spent revising for the MRCPsych examination. And so, I've started this podcast to help you revise on the go. Each episode breaks down one high-yield topic mapped to the syllabus. This is then followed by 5 questions to help reinforce your learning. So, grab your headphones, turn travel time into revision time, and let's get started. Let's begin by exploring the relationship between language and thought. Psychologists have long debated whether language shapes how people think, or whether thought can occur independently of language. One influential idea is the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, sometimes called linguistic relativity. This theory proposes that the structure of language influences how individuals perceive and interpret the world around you. It's the difference between language being a mirror of reality and language being a lens through which we see it. For example, research has also shown that speakers of languages with separate words for light blue and dark blue, such as Russian, are faster at visually distinguishing those colours than English speakers. Language can also influence how people understand space. Most languages describe location using relative terms such as left and right. However, most psychologists now believe that language influences thought rather than completely determining it. Humans are able to think about visual images, spatial relationships, and emotions, even when words are not available. Remember, language can influence thought, but thinking can also occur independently of language. Another key concept in cognitive psychology is the concept. Concepts are mental categories used to organise knowledge about objects, events, or ideas. For example, the concept of a bird includes many different animals such as robins, eagles, and penguins. Concepts allow people to recognise patterns in the world and quickly classify new information. Remember, concepts are mental categories that organise knowledge and help us classify new information. Within each category, some examples are considered more typical than others. This idea is described by prototype theory, proposed by the psychologist Eleanor Rosch in the 1970s. Rosch demonstrated that people consistently judge some category members as better examples than others. For example, when people think of the concept bird, many imagine a robin or sparrow, rather than a penguin or ostrich. Interestingly, Rosch's early research involved studying how people from different cultures classify colours, which helped show that human perception and categorisation follow similar cognitive patterns across societies. Prototypes allow the brain to classify objects quickly and efficiently. Remember, a prototype is the most typical example of a category and helps guide rapid classification. Another way psychologists understand categories is through the idea of core features. Some categories are defined by essential characteristics that must be present. For example, to be classified as a bachelor, a person must be an unmarried adult male. If any of these features are missing, the concept no longer applies. In contrast, many everyday concepts are more flexible and depend on family resemblance rather than strict definitions. For example, members of the category game may share several features, such as rules, competition, or entertainment, but not every game contains all of these characteristics. Remember, concepts may be organised through prototypes or through core defining features. Why is what we learned today clinically important? During the mental state examination, clinicians assess thought through a patient's speech and language. Disturbances in the organisation of thought may appear as abnormalities in speech patterns, known as formal thought disorder. For example, conditions such as schizophrenia may present with loosening of associations, tangentiality, or derailment, reflecting disorganised thinking. In a future episode, we will look in more detail at how thought disorder is assessed during a psychiatric interview. Remember, in the mental state examination, abnormalities of speech may reflect disturbances in the organisation of thought, known as formal thought disorder. Now, let's test your recall. I will read out 5 exam-style questions. After each one, I will pause for 10 seconds so you can attempt the answer before hearing the explanation. Question 1. A psychology student learns that the structure of language can influence how individuals perceive and categorise the world. Which theory describes this relationship between language and thought? The answer is the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Question 2. A trainee psychiatrist learns that the mind organises knowledge into mental categories, such as animals, vehicles, or emotions. What term describes these mental categories? The answer is concepts. Question 3. When asked to think of a bird, most people imagine a robin or sparrow rather than a penguin. Which cognitive theory explains this phenomenon? The answer is prototype theory. Question 4. A geometry teacher explains that a triangle must have 3 sides in order to belong to that category. Which concept organisation principle is being illustrated? The answer is core defining features. Finally, question 5. During a psychiatric interview, a clinician evaluates patterns of speech in order to assess the patient's thought processes. Why can speech provide useful information about thought? The answer is because spoken language often reflects underlying thought processes. If you paused and attempted the questions, well done. Testing your recall like this is one of the most effective ways to prepare for the examination. Let's summarise what we have learned today. Language and thought are closely related, and language may influence how people perceive and categorise the world. Knowledge is organised through concepts, which allow the brain to classify objects and ideas efficiently. Categories may be organised around prototypes or defined by core features, helping individuals recognise patterns and make sense of new information. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of MRCPsych on the Go Revision Essentials. I hope this episode helped to move your revision forward. If you have any questions or just want to continue the discussion, you can find me on LinkedIn at MRCPsych on the Go, spelled MRCPysch on the go. This podcast is about making revision accessible. If you found it useful, liking and sharing it with others helps the goal more than anything else. That's it for today. I'm Dr. Alap Azurlikar, and as always, keep revising on the go.